that Kimmerite, Brawley, and Tucker. In compliance with the State Government Ethics Act, I remind members of the Commission of our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and inquire at this time as to whether any member of the Commission has a known conflict with respect to matters coming before us this morning. All right, the record will reflect that no conflicts have been identified, so we will proceed with item 1.
Good morning, Commission. Jeff Thomas with the Public Staff. Electric item 1 is a petition by Duke Energy Progress, LLC, for a limited waiver and authorization to modify an existing North Carolina interconnection agreement to accommodate the requirements of Camp McCall at Fort Liberty. These modifications are necessary to allow Camp McCall to comply with certain federal laws as well as policies regarding access to Army bases. Public Staff has reviewed the petition and does not object to the proposed modifications. Public Staff further notes that under Section 12.2 of the NCIA, parties may mutually agree to make changes to the NCIA as long as those parties agree to the changes in writing. Public Staff agrees that it is reasonable for DEP to accommodate other federal agency interconnection customers by making similar amendments to the NCIA in the future. Public Staff recommends that the Commission approve the petition and issue the Public Staff's proposed order. I also understand that the company has representatives available to respond to questions the Commission may have.
Move approval of staff recommendation.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the item be approved as recommended by the Public Staff. Before I call for the vote, Mr. Thomas, just one quick question. In a previous order of the Commission allowing a waiver of the standard interconnection agreement, the Commission requested that the interconnection customer going forward provide any additional changes in a red line to the standard form agreement. The proposed order in front of us does not have that same condition in it. Is there, and it may be, did you all discuss that condition, or is that of concern to the Public Staff?
No, I think we agree that the condition, they provided the red line here was helpful. We agree should be there, but I guess the reason it was just out of this order was because I guess it was assumed it was already applicable from the prior order and maybe didn't need to be repeated, but certainly not trying to waive or negate that requirement.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, it is the Public Staff's expectation and preference that going forward, should there be any additional revisions, that those revisions be provided, any revisions requested, that those be provided in a red line?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, any additional questions or discussion? All right, all in favor indicate with an eye. Is there anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
All right, we will move to Public Staff item 2.
Good morning, Lynn Fiesel from Public Staff. Item 2 is regarding the request of Aqua North Carolina Inc. or Aqua NC for approval of Affiliate Interest Agreement or AIA and intercompany restructuring. On October 29, 2021, Aqua NC filed a letter in docket number W-218 sub 570 requesting approval of an AIA with Aqua Services Inc., which is also Aqua Services, for various support services. On the same day, Aqua NC also filed a verified petition in docket number W-218 sub 571 requesting approval of a post-corporate restructuring pursuant to NCGS Chapter 62-111A. On December 6, 2024, the Public Staff filed a motion in docket number W-218 sub 571 stating that it had reached an agreement with Aqua NC on revisions to the AIA and on regulatory conditions for the proposed restructuring, except for one condition. The Public Staff requests the Commission to add to the agreed-upon conditions a regulatory condition requiring Aqua NC to file an annual report of affiliate transactions should the Commission grant Aqua NC's request for approval of the proposed restructuring and the AIA. On December 9, 2024, Aqua NC filed agreed-upon revised AIA. On December 17, 2024, Aqua NC filed a response to the Public Staff's motion. The Public Staff recommends that the Commission accept the AIA as filed on December 9, 2024, and allow Aqua NC to receive services thereunder pursuant to NCGS Chapter 62-153B. approve the proposed restructuring subject to the agreed upon regulatory conditions and make a determination on the public staff motion to add an additional regulatory condition and the Aqua NC's response.
All right, thank you, Ms. Fizel. The commission has several questions on this item, and so I'd ask that representative of the company come up, please, to address those questions. I have a few for the public staff, and so answer those if you can, and if it's more appropriate for the company to answer, then just let me know that. All right, so what can you tell me about why the public staff is requesting that the commission approve the reporting format?
The annual reporting format, we want that because we want that to identify whether the cost allocation is actually compliance with the revised AIA. Without that annual report, we are not able to identify. But with the report, I can see which company provide which service to which subsidiaries and the cost allocated to each subsidiaries with the working formulas in the format in Excel file that I can see whether the allocation calculation is actually compliant to the AIA.
Okay, so based on your response to that question, is it the case that Carolina Water's, the report that comes in from Carolina Water may look different than the report that comes in from Aqua?
Correct. It's a company by company basis.
Okay, and did the public staff work with Carolina Water to develop a format that the public staff, I'm sorry, did the public staff work with Carolina Water to develop a format for the report?
Subject to check. I need to review the report itself and see whether the format is something we discussed.
Okay, and is Carolina Water's first report on affiliated transactions due in April of this year?
Subject to check.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has Carolina Water requested any guidance from the public staff on that report?
I did not recall.
Not yet. Okay. Well, let me retract that response if you would, Kayleen. Okay, for my response. All right. Let's see. Does the public staff recommend, well, is it a safe assumption, Ms. Fiesel, that the public staff's recommendation related to Aqua might differ from whatever guidance public staff provides to Carolina
Yes.
Water?
Yes, because the public staff recommendation will mainly based on the AIA and the regulatory conditions.
Okay. What about the reporting that's undertaken by Frontier or PSNC? Are those reports specific, are the formats of those reports specific to those companies?
I did not personally involve in those two cases,
Okay,
but I can go back and check the case.
okay. What is the public staff's response to what I believe was the suggestion that Aqua made regarding rulemaking on this issue?
Could you repeat that? I didn't quite catch it.
Right. Well, Ms. Hedrick, since you're up here, why don't you tell us what Aqua's suggestion was related to a rulemaking?
Thank you. Aqua's position is there's a lot of reporting that's required of Aqua already, which puts a pretty significant burden on the company. And we don't have a clear picture as to what information is being sought with this report and what that is going to look like, how much of a burden that's going to impose. And the thought being that if the public staff needs this information from utilities, it ought to be uniform and be the subject of a rulemaking procedure so that everyone is on the same page, understands what has to be provided, and is being treated equally.
All right, thank you for that response, Ms. Hedrick. Does Aqua have a response to the public staff, what I understand the public staff's position to be, which is that the reporting should tie to the affiliate agreement, and those agreements might differ company to company?
I understand that. I think that there's still enough commonality that rulemaking proceeding makes sense so that the broad strokes are applied the same way and that each utility that has an affiliated interest agreement is treated the same way.
Okay, Ms. Feasel, and public staff want to add anything or provide a response to the requested rulemaking?
Yeah.
Lynn, do you have something that you'd like to comment on that? No, this is Megan Yost with the Public Staff Legal Division. I guess my response would be that there are a number of companies, which we listed in our motion, including Frontier, DEC, Carolina Water, who are currently subject to this requirement. And there haven't been any issues there. Rulemaking is very time intensive and resource intensive. And so, you know, if there are any issues, unless there are any issues that haven't been identified, I don't know that that's a necessary use of the commission's and the parties' time.
Okay, all right, thank you, Ms. Yost. All right, any additional questions from commissioners? All right, I'll go with Commissioner McKissick and then Commissioner Tucker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions. I mean, it seems like the idea of having this annual report submitted that identifies all of the affiliate transactions, and I would kind of refer those as interested party transactions, would provide excellent information so you can see if the terms and conditions that are related to those transactions would be similar to what it would be if they were arm's length transactions with a third party. So is that the goal of what you're seeking?
Yes. So first of all, from that report, I want to see whether the cost allocation is actually applied to the agreement. But also, more importantly, I want to know that that annual report actually apply with the Chapter 6, 162, 153B, which is the lower of cost of market. Because in the AIA agreement, there is a description of how the costs are allocated, and there are clauses that shows that the service provided to Aqua NC will need to be the lower of cost or market. So from the report, I can see whether the report is comply with the agreement and also whether it complies with the 62, 153B.
And I know it's kind of like looking into a crystal ball and trying to see the future, but do you have any idea of the number of transactions or volumes of transactions that might be contained or listed in an annual report?
I wouldn't know the number of transactions, but I would expect the company will have a record of the
Right.
transaction between affiliated companies and even between affiliate company and then third-party clients. That is mandatory step for the company to record the transaction on their books. So I do not expect that is additional steps for the company to take because they have to take those steps to record on the books anyway.
Sure. I was just kind of curious if there was any anticipated volume. And I guess the last question that comes to my mind is that if you do not have this information, how will you make an assessment in terms of the reasonableness of the transaction? And then secondly, from what I gather from reviewing the file, the company said you could get this information through discovery in a rate case. I mean, so could you address that particular response that I observed?
Yes. Yeah. If we do not get this information, the annual report, I do not think we can get assessment to see whether the transactions are comply with the Chapter 62, 153 or not, because we cannot see how the costs are allocated, whether it complies with the agreement, whether it is the lower of cost or market. So we cannot do that. Regarding your second question, if we put this request in the data request and assuming company can provide all the information we need, then I do not think the reason why the company cannot provide an annual report is the same information, but in a different formatting of providing that either through data request or through an annual report. So if the company can provide information through data request, I assume the company can provide information through through annual report.
Thank you.
May I just add to that? So in addition to what Lynn just said, I would note that if we have a heavy burden during a rate case, and especially in consideration of the WISP, where we're looking at 3 years of planned investment, it would be much more efficient for us to look at this on an annual basis and sort of, make our burden less during the rate case.
Thank you for carrying those observations.
All right, Commissioner Tucker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of quick questions for my own edification. Essential utility services, will they end up being Aqua's parent?
Essential, sorry, let me check my notes here. I believe it's going to be, it is a subsidiary of Aqua's parent company. I believe is.
Okay. So they can allocate costs to Aqua,
Yes.
North Carolina?
Actually, can I?
Yeah, sure,
So-
sure.
Just to make sure we're talking about the same thing, I'm sorry. Essential Utilities is the parent company.
Okay,
There is a new holding company, Aqua Water Holdings, which is being proposed as part of this.
okay. As corporate structures are set up, can Essential Utilities and/or Aqua Water, if they have increased interest payments from Essential, is that like the parent company? Can they push those costs down to Aqua, North Carolina to be recovered?
So I think that what would be recovered would be services being provided to Aqua.
Okay. The last question, what is the difference between what we're talking about this morning and then what was filed in October 21?
In terms of the agreement itself.
Yes.
Number of changes, and I don't have them all in front of me, and I unfortunately was not the person that negotiated all of those changes. But we could get
I'm-
that information and
I'm the
provide it to you.
50,000 foot guy. So, I just, overall, does anybody have a response to that? Or they can get back to me later, no problem.
Yeah, I can make some supplemental comments on this question. So I learned from the AIA and the restructuring article, that application, that Essential Utility Service is a service company for Essential Inc. And the Essential Utility Service can provide services to and allocate to Aqua Service Inc. Allocate a portion to Aqua Service Inc. And then Aqua Service Inc. will collect these service expenses from Essential Service down to Aqua NC based on different allocation factors.
Okay. My response, my question about this was, I sold my company to a private equity group, and then all of a sudden, the expenses for the parent company hit the books, and they're like a heat-sinking missile to your margins. So that's why I was asking about that. But the reporting, you find that the reporting and the essential reports for public staff will be adequate in this new restructuring. You
Mhm.
feel comfortable that
Yes.
you'll be able to know exactly what's going on?
Yes, as long as the company provide information we need, then yes, we can.
Okay, very well. Thank you for your response.
I move that this item be taken to executive conference for further discussion.
I'll second that move.
All right, I've got a motion that the item be moved into executive conference. Any questions or discussion on the motion? That motion has been seconded. All right, hearing none, all in favor indicate with an eye. Is there anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, thank you all very much for your responses to the commission's questions. All right, commission has before us our minutes from the December 23rd, 2024 staff conference for approval. Is there any question or discussion on that motion? All right, all in favor indicate with an eye. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Is there any additional business for the commission this morning? All right, hearing none, we'll be adjourned. Thank you very much. We're off the record.